So I'm the new gallerist, and we have they call it a vernissage, which is the launch of my first exhibition. Not of my paintings, of a dear friend of mine. She's wonderful. Her name is Babette Elisabeth de Vignal, and she's the most extraordinary painter. And I will be actually, if you actually have a look on Instagram, I have to activate it, I think. I don't think it's up yet live, but it's La Galerie, Galerie, de Saint, Saint, Alvere, Alvere, all one word. So it'll be at La Galerie de Saint Alvere. But I'll have all her absolutely exquisite paintings there. And what's really lovely is that each painting is being accompanied by a poem by poetess. They call it poetess in France if you're a female poet. Poetess Annick Dancer, who is half French, half Vietnamese, and she's another dear friend of mine. And the poems are exquisite. They're in French, but I've got translations in English, or will have in the catalogue. And one reason I'm up so early is I could barely sleep last night. We got to bed at about 11:30, but I kept tossing and turning because I realised that I hadn't yet done the catalogue, and I was working out, what we needed in the catalogue and how I would do it. And I think I'll probably do it with I'll get the artist to fill out a spreadsheet, with her price and the title and an actual image, and then. Yeah, I'm going to have an asterisk which indicates that there is this poem attached. And they call these poems, it's a fascinating word, it comes from the Greek and it's called ekphrastic. So Annick has done these ekphrastic poems, which are poems that are, they're written to a painting or to a photograph or to an image. Charlie is saying hello. Hang on, I'll turn around and you can see my boy. Here's my naughty boy. Hey, Charlie, I know, isn't he gorgeous? So Leah and Judith and Hamish, hello. And Charlie says hello if he can be bothered. He is such a good little boy. Well, he's often a bad little boy. You have to read my Charlie Chronicles. They are quite funny, even if I say so myself. And they chronicle the crimes, I call them, Crines, of my crinimal, because he's the crinimal you have to love, which is why we spell it with an N. We put the N and the M in opposite positions. Anyway, so where was I? Yes, at the gallery. So, so I was tossing and turning, and I even had a dream, and blah-de-da. Anyway, so I'm up early. But, life is not bad, because this is my breakfast so far this morning. I am having strawberries. And these are the sweetest strawberries you can imagine, because strawberries and coffee, not bad, hey. I will have some of my sourdough bread later, toast. But yeah, we have to get up early anyway because we're in the middle of the most atrocious heat wave. The second heat wave of the year, which is very troubling. The first was in March. Sorry, no, May. And that's appalling to have a heat wave in May. And this one is a stinker because it's going to go in total, according to current weather reports, it will be going for about 17, 18 days with temperatures way above 30 C. Now, I know that's in the 90s, the late 90s for you guys, but we get to 40 degrees Celsius on Sunday. And of course, for the vernissage or the launch at 6:30 on Saturday, it's going to be 35 degrees, I think, either 33 or 35. That's going to be hot. So we're hoping that won't discourage people from coming. I've got this beautiful fruit punch. It's one that my mum made up for my 21st birthday, would you believe? And I use it still to this day. And what you do, people, I shall give you the recipe, is you slice thinly limes, oranges, and lemons in equal quantities into little bread tins, bread baking tins. fill it with water, put it in the freezer. So that's the base. Now that is like a giant ice block. And when you put that in the bottom of your big pot with the punch, it keeps it freezing cold and you don't need to have ice cubes. So it's economical and it's quick and it's delicious. Then what you do is on the day, you put that in the bottom of a large pot. And I'm going to put it in the biggest pot I can find, one of my big boiling pots. And then you add to taste, basically, first of all, orange and pineapple juice. And then you top it up with lemonade and with, or Sprite, whatever you like, and ginger ale. And it is sublime. Oh, and then what you do is you put mint on top. Now, we've got the most gorgeous mint here in the garden, so I'll just cut branches of that and just float that in the top. It's heavenly, quite heavenly, and it's fun because, each of the garden parties we've had over the previous years, which is always, in the end, on a hot day, that's the thing that goes the fastest when people stop drinking the alcohol and start drinking the punch, so that shows how good it is. Anyway, so we're going to have that on the night. Anyway, I'm excited, and I'm not sleeping, but anyway, I had to talk today about Trump's birthday celebrations on the White House lawn. I mean, I think that probably epitomizes everything that's horrible about him. I don't watch, wrestling myself. It's not my taste. I don't like watching people beat the hell out of each other. But, other people do, and I'm sure it's very exciting, but you do not put it on the White House lawn. I think that man, first of all, he's extraordinarily vulgar, but also he doesn't care. He doesn't give a shit. And, hang on, you can see my rage in my face. He doesn't give a shit. But also, I think he does it deliberately. I think that man is bent on denigrating everything that people who truly love democracy hold dear in America. And in the world, in fact, because the White House is a symbol of democracy in the world. Don't forget that. And so he's bent on demeaning it, diminishing it. He's a nasty piece of work. And oh my God, I saw a photo on Substack yesterday and they were comparing, an aerial view of the White House with the beautiful green lawn at its front, and then the White House with the trash on the front. Oh my God, the fighting rings. It was disgusting. And I guess Trump thinks this will appeal to the MAGA crowd. It certainly would appeal to people who want to take, basically, who despise elegance, who despise beauty, or feel uncomfortable with it. So this would have been right down the MAGA lane. But it's right down his lane. And let us never, ever forget that his grandfather ran a brothel. Yeah, let us never forget. I think it was the grandfather. He ran a brothel. And now his grandson is president of your country, your beautiful country, and is denigrating everything that stands for democracy. And I don't know, my loathing for the man is bottomless. I don't know how you feel about it, but, send us a heart if you loathe that man. Because it just disturbs me terribly. Anyway, and this business about yeah, thank you. This business about the reflecting pool. Jesus Christ. So he's turning it the colour of a public swimming pool, yeah, which he thinks is beautiful. And I read yesterday that bottles of bleach were being poured into it. Wow. Now, what could be more beautiful than a pool that reflects the changing moods of the sky? I mean, that's nature, that's beauty, that's elegance. That's just eternal, isn't it? A public swimming pool? No, I don't think so. The man has the taste of a slug, and that's not being very kind to slugs, because slugs can't help it. I don't know, well, we do know the circumstances of his childhood. They were pretty crass. Terry, oh my God. Everyone, if you are not subscribing to this man, Terry Malone, you subscribe to him, his essays on why your beautiful country is in the state it is in now, going way, way back before Trump, are essential reading. Yes, Terry, the man is a damn clown. But it just, I don't know. I mean, I just wonder where's the bottom to his depravity? Because I don't think we've even plumbed it yet. We will find out one day. It'll be a part of history. It'll be the sort of stuff that we don't show our children until they're of a certain age, in terms of sexual depravity. I mean, I don't know if you read about it's Nipplegate, this poor little girl. Trump apparently likes flicking and biting nipples. That's right, Terry. You're welcome. You deserve it. Subscribe to Terry Malone. But yeah, no, this poor girl, there were photographs taken, and of course they were bleeding and bruised and this, that, and the other, and she was complaining to this other little girl. This is all in the Epstein files, but wow, he does that to little girls. Wow. Anyway, can you remember way back, this was before his first presidency, there were rumours that he'd been in Russia and he had had Russian prostitutes pee on the bed that Obama slept in. Yep. And that had been found out by a British secret agent. And yeah, I absolutely believe that. I mean, it's not ever been actually proven, but of course he did that. The man who desecrates the White House lawn. And he would have done that also to desecrate Obama, of course. And if you have a look at my feed, I restacked yesterday this glorious, absolutely glorious picture of Trump with Obama sitting in an armchair in the back of his head with a smile on his face. God, I love that man. Absolutely superb. Anyway, so when you find that one, you got to restack. You got to like it, and you got to comment. Speaking of which, by the way, there's a guy called Hal Gill on Substack, and he did an interview the other day with David Andelman. Now, again, okay, I actually pay subscribe to very few people because we simply can't afford it. When I first went onto Substack in, it was July last year, I started pay subscribing to all these people I thought were absolutely magnificent. And then my husband pointed out that I was actually, it was getting very, very expensive and we couldn't afford it. And so I had a look at what, my favourite people like Ellie Leonard was doing, and I thought, whoa, she's barely pay subscribing to anybody. And so I thought, right, okay. So unfortunately, I had to unsubscribe, which means they still get their money this year. So some people are getting a very nice lot of money this year. But now I only pay subscribe actually to Ellie Leonard because of her sublime work and extraordinary work and the danger she's putting herself in on the Epstein files. And also Heather Cox Richardson, the Divine and the Great. So I do pay subscribe to those two and to Andelman Unleashed. Now, the reason I subscribe to David Andelman, he is one of the greats. Terry, I know you are. That's why I follow you. No, it's not why I follow you, but it means I can follow you. Terry does not require people to pay. I get a bit pissed off when there are really good people who are writing, and they have this paywall, and you can only get into the first paragraph. I think that's unfair because I think, all of us, you guys, you've got your paid subscribers anyway. Yeah? Huge numbers often have paid subscribers. Why do you need to paywall your stuff? It actually makes me kind of lose respect a little bit for those people, even though they're great writers, because why? I mean, I know they need to earn money. Yeah, well, we all do. We all do. But aren't they earning enough? And don't they think their words are important enough to go to absolutely all of us? But anyway, I guess that's their choice. But it does put me off, and it means that after I've read that paragraph, I usually do a comment saying, well, I'd love to read the rest of this, but I can't afford to. So, Anyway, so I'm free too, by the way. So what was I saying? Yes, David Andelman. If you do pay subscribe to David Andelman, what you do, he was CNN's man in Europe. He was one of the top anchors of CNN, and he worked around the world. He has a Chevalier d'Honneur in Paris. He lives half his year in Paris and in in the States. His delightful wife, Pamela Title, is also a fantastic journalist. And what he does on a Friday night for us, it's really great. It's for us, it's 7 o'clock on a Friday night, so it's the perfect Friday night thing to look forward to. He has this live, it's an interview with someone really noteworthy. Now, this will either be a leading world journalist, or it'll be a leading world diplomat, or it'll be, we had this extraordinary man, Wesley Van Drongelen last Friday night, and he is basically a university professor who specialises in small nations. Fascinating talk, in particular about the environment, which we must never forget is actually the most important thing going on these days. Even above democracy. I mean, if we don't have a planet to live on, we're stuffed. It doesn't matter what political system we've got. But yes, so subscribe to Wesley Van Drongelen, Drongelen. He's, as you might have guessed, of Dutch descent, and he's very interesting. These are the people you meet. And the lovely thing is that you can ask them questions. And I don't know, I mean, I just get a real kick out of being able to ask questions of really insanely interesting, intellectual, fabulous people. And it doesn't cost much to pay subscribe to David A. Andelman. So please have a look at it. And I'd love to see you there, because you'll see me there. I'm always the person who asks the first question, because I always have loads of questions. And poor David, he has to restrain me. He'll say, "Oh, okay, Sarah's got her hand up first. Okay, Sarah, what are your thoughts? what do you know?" And it's not your thoughts. You have to frame it as a question, even if it's a thought. It's tremendously amusing too. David also, on his mailing list, will send you the comics du jour from around the world, and they're very, very, very funny. And David himself is the most charming man, and one of the greats. So, I would really recommend that. Anyway, and Terry, why don't you start something like that? You could interview Australian figures of importance. That would be interesting. Anyway, and I would come along. And I would pay subscribe if you did that. Just thought. So yeah, the White House lawn. Yeah, his vulgarity, his nastiness. Oh, anyway. Okay, I'm not going to carry on too much more about that, because it just makes my day bad. But let us never stop writing about this. Let us never stop complaining. I've got an ant on my chest. Go away, little ant. Oop, don't want to get bitten. Incredibly, we have no mosquitoes yet. It's extraordinary. Here we are. We now. Actually, I think it is. Oh, no. The 21st is officially the start of summer, but we're certainly, in very, very, very late spring, and we don't have a single mosquito yet. This is unheard of. It's fabulous. It means when I get up early, Terry, we have to confront. As you can see, as my husband says, Sarah Brennan will never back away from a good fight. I always confront evil. I've done it since I've been tiny at school. I was very unpopular with the smart set at school, because I used to confront them when they were unkind or cruel to the fat girl or to the girl who had the stutter. I've always punched people right in the nose. So I'm a confronter, and I'm proud of it, baby. Charlie at the moment is licking my heels. Which actually is delightful. I don't know if you've ever had a dog lick your toes, but I do kind of feel that, what was her name? Fergie had a point with John Ryan licking her toes, because it's pretty delicious, especially when a dog does it, because they've got a really big tongue. Okay, I know I've turned you all off. You don't want to, you're just picturing it. I'll show you my boy. He's saying, look, it's pretty cool, and I do it as a public service to my mother. Here he is. Charlie, Charles. Isn't he lovely? He's a beautiful boy. He's actually been very good this morning, because usually when I'm on the phone for any length of time, he, like a child, will come up and try to play with me or annoy me, or otherwise say, Mum, it's time you paid me attention. Anyway, my lovely friends, this has been rather special, actually, especially, well, seeing you four here. Thank you very much. And especially Terry, because he's a fellow Australian. Terry, can you are you a university professor or a? You're definitely an academic. Leyland. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to have to stay on for a little while. Hi, Leyland. How are you? Here's me. Hello. I was just talking about my fellow subscriber, Terry Malone, who's also a fellow Australian who writes extraordinary pieces. His insight into how America's got to where it's got to are profound. And a lot of what he says applies to other Western democracies. You know, I remember when I was a kid in Australia, and Terry will remember this too, there was a book that came out, and it was something like The Americanization of Australia, something like that. And I mean, I don't like to say this. Ah, you're a teacher and a tutor in another life. And your current life? Are you all simply retired and writing brilliant essays for Substack? I'd love to know. Anyway, Terry, you write with such clarity. Such clarity. Anyway, um, gosh, yes, so they had this thing about, Australia becoming American, and it was very much to a large extent because what was happening was that our television, yeah, so am I, except now I'm an unretired gallerist for a local art gallery. And oh my God, that's going to be fun. But you know what the beauty of it is? Summers can get stinking hot here, as I have told you. We don't have an air-conned house. It doesn't matter because we have this wonderful old house with very, very thick walls. So it's always like a fridge inside. It's absolutely gorgeous in summer. Sometimes you need to have the fan on to move the air. So what we do is, first thing in the morning, we open up all the windows like that. Yeah, we get all the cold air in, all the hot air out. And then as soon as the sun rises and it's getting warm, so around about 9 o'clock, you close the shutters, and it's called Espelette, a la Espelette or Espagnolette, something like that. And what it is you close the shutters so that the doors meet and they hook together, but the shutters are still mildly open, and that just stops the hot air coming in. And you can do it directionally. I mean, this side of the house is a really hot side, so we do Espelette with the shutters here and keep the windows on the other side not open, but we keep the shutters open, and that gives us enough light. Thank you, Terry. It's our dream house. It's our dream house. It's gorgeous. We think about 1828 because that's the carving on the little house next door to us. So it's post-revolution. It'll be during one of the restorations of the monarchy here in France. It's the same time we think that the church was built, because this was the house that it was the school. It used to be the school, the old schoolhouse attached to the church. Not bad, hey? And one reason we fell for the house the minute we stepped inside, it was a coup de foudre, they call it in French. We just fell in love immediately. Was because the windows are so large and the rooms are big and square. And so you get a lot of light. And here in France, that is not the general experience in the country, because in the farmhouses, they're fairly dark. And you have to keep the electric light on, even in the middle of summer. And we were not into that. So it's a glorious place, and all our friends love it too. And you would die to know what we paid for it. We paid less than half of what we would have had to pay in Australia for an apartment with maybe 2 bedrooms. Okay, so that's why we couldn't afford, because I was a writer and a children's writer, and while I was paying for me and all my expenses, and obviously the next book that came out, because I published my own books and then travelled the world with them, but because of that, we only had one income, Philippe's, and he'd had a disaster in his 30s where he'd lost all his money because he'd invested in a duck farm on the River Kwai. Isn't that a wonderful, fantastic, but it's true. He basically was making foie gras on the River Kwai with 2 young French partners, and they turned out to be bad uns, and their whole business collapsed under their unimpressive care while Philippe was doing all the back stuff, whilst he was also working in Thailand. So it was a mess, and he lost all his money then, and he'd made some really big money up to then. So anyway, yes, but money's never been our big thing anyway, so long as we are healthy. And as long as we have each other, and we have great love, so that's wonderful. I have wonderful children and a wonderful dog and a wonderful life, which we can afford here in France in this magnificent house. And you know, we could actually, once we've properly finished doing up the top floor, because there's basically 4 levels. We've got downstairs, it's like this cellar, and that's where the laundry is. And then we've got 1, 2, 3 large rooms on this floor, and then we've got 3 large rooms on the second floor, including a library for the first time in our lives. And then you go up to the loft, and there's two other bedrooms up there, and that's where we intend to put all the grandchildren when they occur. No pressure on my girls, but when they occur, it's going to be gorgeous. But we'll have to put in some sort of aircon in the top level for the kids, or they'll never agree to sleep up there. And it'll be cute. All the grandchildren can bunk in together. That's the idea. Anyway, so it'll happen, it'll happen. Both my daughters are in very serious relationships, and they're all talking about marriage, and in fact I've even bought their wedding presents, which is in fact 2 of the paintings going circular in this conversation. 2 of the smaller paintings of Babette, who is my featured artist at the vernissage, or the launch, on Friday, so that's rather exciting. Anyway, my lovely friends, I'm going to have to go because I need to open all the windows right through the whole house to get this cool air in, because today we are promised, I think it's about 35, horrible, horrible heat. And yeah, and I need to get going with my day, and I need to I need to get that catalogue done for Saturday. It's been a great joy talking to you all, and I will be here. I should give it a name, shouldn't I? One of my favourite people to listen to. I call her my porch lady. And her name is Lisa Joy. She's worth listening to. Gosh, she's a brave woman. Absolutely fabulous. That's okay, Hamish. And I would urge you to subscribe to Lisa Joy as well, because she does this sort of evening on the porch, and she's in the heart of red countryside, and she's amazing because she actually is part of this fundamentalist congregation that she goes to just to report on what's going on in these fundamentalist churches. Fabulous woman, brave as hell, and very interesting and warm. Like everyone who subscribes to Substack is warm, and people with a conscience and a heart, and with a love of beauty, and with, finally, a complete and utter detestation of Donald. I call him the dumbster. Dumbster. And on that positive note, I shall wish you a very good night to all of you, because I think you're all in nighttime. Sleep well, and I'll see you next time. Bye.